All right, guys. So once again, the Democrats are showing you that they are the party of America last. Okay, they don't like Americans. They specifically don't like a subsection of America that voted for Trump. Again, if you voted for Trump, they probably wish the worst for you. Okay, I'm just being honest. That's not hyperbole. That's not an exaggeration. That's just true. Okay, and they show you based off their actions. I mean, and their words as well too. I mean, they don't hold back in regards to what they think about people who support Trump. I mean, Hillary called Trump supporters a basket of deplorables. Okay, but again, actions speak louder than words. Okay, and ignoring probably one of the biggest environmental slash ecological disasters in American history while visiting Ukraine with $500 million in U.S. aid is probably a prime example of how the Democrats simply don't care about you if they can't use you for political gain, which is exactly what is happening as Biden has headed to Ukraine, right? He visited Kyiv with $500 million in aid in hand, okay? So more money to Ukraine. While again, at the same time, it has been a struggle for East Palestine to even get help from FEMA, right? Oh, well, we don't know. You don't qualify, right? You don't qualify for help from FEMA, right? This is what the Biden administration told East Palestine. But for whatever reason, Ukraine qualifies for a never-ending amount of U.S. taxpayer dollars. If this is not America last, I don't know what to tell you, right? I don't know how anybody that is a Democrat or a Biden supporter can see the contrast here in regards to what's going on and not be ashamed to vote for this man, right? Not think that, you know, maybe this is not right. Maybe it's not right that we give more attention to other people around the world than we do to our own citizens who are actively being poisoned. Yeah, people should be pissed, right? People should be pissed about this, right? But hey, you know, for whatever reason, the Democrat Party in their base, they don't seem to care about this, but I do. Okay, people who are paying attention, who aren't brainwashed, actually do care, and we gotta talk about this because this is crazy, right? Again, Biden has headed to Ukraine with $500 million in U.S. aid, okay, while annoying East Palestine. So let's read here. Biden's trip to Ukraine was something of a surprise on Monday as the American president landed in Kyiv to confer with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky and give the nation another $500 million in aid. Biden also announced new sanctions with Russia, though the last round of sanctions has not weakened Russia's trade, but simply pushed Russia into talks with China and Iran. Yeah, I mean, all the sanctions we put on Russia haven't seemed to deter them from continuing this war, right? They're still continuing the war. The sanctions don't really seem to be working too much. Air raid sirens went off across Ukraine, though there were no reports of threats during the visit. So as you see here, this is Biden and little man Zelensky, right? Again, you would think that the United States president would avoid an active war zone, right? This is what they say Kyiv is. Kyiv is an active war zone, right? Why is the president there? Again, I got questions, right? More questions than answers about this. But again, this is what Biden's doing. This is what he's doing while the citizens of East Palestine suffer. This is what he's doing. He's in Ukraine, all the way across the globe. East Palestine is a 30-minute flight. He couldn't show up. He really hasn't even said anything about it. Again, it's ridiculous. The war in Ukraine enters its second year this month as the 1-year anniversary of the Russian invasion of its neighboring nation draws near. The U.S. has given nearly $30 billion in security assistance to Ukraine, and there is no telling when the pipeline of exorbitant funding will drop. Never, right? It's never going to drop because the military-industrial complex has to get paid. They got to get their paper, right? See, this is one of the things that Republicans should have paid attention to. Is probably when one of the better Republican presidents, Dwight D. Eisenhower, said, beware the military-industrial complex, right? I think this is what he was talking about, okay? Or this is partially what he was talking about, okay? This type of crap right here, okay? Hey, you know, it is what it is. But let's watch this report from CNN.
Significant moment on the world stage. President Biden met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky during this unannounced trip. It comes just days before the 1-year mark of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. This moment is highly significant this morning. Biden sending a strong message of support to Ukrainians as air raid sirens wailed across Kyiv, underscoring the very real risk involved in this trip. Both leaders spoke a moment ago about the weight of this historic moment.
President Biden, that is so important signal for us, and all we are proud of it. Thank you very much for coming, Mr. President.
It's good to be back in Kyiv. I was telling the president, one of my newer staff members on the flight from Washington into Poland asked me how many times I've been to Kyiv. And I had to stop and think, it's my 8th trip. And much has changed. Much of it bad with the invasion, but also the Ukrainian people have stepped up in a way that few people ever have in their own defense, and have apparently also embraced the notions of democracy. No longer discussions about whether or not certain privileged people have control.
Yeah, so it's just amazing to me who the Democrats choose to give attention to and who they don't choose to give attention to, right? For example, again, Biden's giving attention to Ukraine and not East Palestine. In fact, let's check in on East Palestine real quick.
Also this morning, back here at home, residents who live near the site of that toxic train derailment in Ohio are voicing new frustrations. This after the CEO of the train company made a surprise visit to the area over the weekend. NBC's George Solis has the latest. George, good morning.
Yeah, Tom, good morning. The CEO coming into town to meet with some local leaders, business owners, and even a few of his employees that live here in town. But the problem is this visit was unannounced, and many residents here feel they didn't get a chance to get their voices heard, specifically about health concerns. To that end, the Ohio Department of Health says they are gearing up to open a health clinic here in town tomorrow.
This morning, residents of East Palestine expressing their frustration.
It's a terrible accident. It falls on their shoulders. It's their train.
After Alan Shaw, the CEO of Norfolk Southern, made an unannounced trip to the town.
I've made it very clear. I am terribly sorry for what has happened to this community.
This as fears over air, water, and soil quality in this tight-knit town escalate.
To walk out this morning, it was like I couldn't breathe.
Mike McKim was among a small group of business owners and community members that spoke with the CEO privately.
He was apprehensive about coming here with a bunch of angry people. I'm not afraid to say that it wasn't right.
Security cameras from McKim's newly opened winery captured the nearby fiery derailment. His business now sits empty as customers cancel reservations over health concerns. In an interview with our NBC affiliate, Shaw declined to answer specific questions about cleanup concerns.
We're being completely transparent, completely collaborative with the Ohio EPA on this.
In a letter to Shaw, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg called for accountability, writing, "The people cannot be forgotten," adding Norfolk Southern must demonstrate that you will not seek to supercharge profits by resisting higher standards. But it comes after a report saying Norfolk Southern pushed against new safety standards for the rail industry. Shaw met with Buttigieg 3 months ago to discuss shared goals over economic growth and infrastructure investments. But in a memo reviewed by the Washington Post, a Transportation Department lawyer said the meeting was an opportunity for Norfolk Southern to raise concerns about a proposed federal rule that would require trains, in most cases, to have 2 crew members. Federal regulators have argued that 2 workers could better respond to derailments. The EPA saying there are still no air or water quality concerns, but many residents are still using bottled water, some relying on giveaways like this one. Even so, the future of this town still uncertain.
Guess you're still worried.
Oh, yeah. How could you not be worried?
Now Norfolk Southern says it's paid out some $2.6 million to business owners and residents here in town. But keep in mind, residents here really just want assurances about their drinking water. Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown still announcing that some residents should still test their water as a precaution. Meanwhile, the Ohio Attorney General says his office is planning to file a lawsuit against the company as the investigation into the train derailment continues. Tom?
One of several expected lawsuits. All right, George, we thank you for that.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Again, one of the very many situations that the Biden administration ignores when it doesn't fit the narrative, right? Like, for example, the Waukesha Christmas parade tragedy, right, where the grandmas got ran over by some lunatic. Biden didn't acknowledge that at all, right? Democrats didn't acknowledge it. Nobody said anything about it. But you have the Tyree Nichols situation where one black guy, right, gets beat to death by police, and you got Kamala Harris showing up to the funeral, right? It's a national conversation. Again, it's just amazing to me what gets attention from the Democrat Party and what doesn't get attention from the Democrat Party. This right here, what Joe Biden is doing, in my opinion, is right in line with treason, right? It really is. I don't understand how right now, when you have a disaster here in America that are happening to the people, you're in Ukraine giving them more money. I don't get it. It's just not a good look, man. It's just not a good look. In addition to security funding, which are essentially weapons and munitions, the U.S. has sent humanitarian aid as well in excess of $50 million. During his visit to Kyiv, Biden assured Zelensky that the U.S. will stand with them no matter what. Biden previously vowed to fund the war in Ukraine, quote, as long as it takes. He promised not to send F-16 fighter jets, but less than a year ago, he promised not to send Abraham tanks, claiming that would mean the start of World War III, and those are reportedly on the way. Yeah, they're going to send whatever they can.
And today I'm announcing that the United States will be sending 31 Abraham tanks to Ukraine.
Yeah, because they want war, right? That's exactly what they want. 1 year later, Biden said during an address, Kyiv stands and Ukraine stands, democracy stands, the Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you. Members of Congress, led primarily by Georgia's Marjorie Taylor Greene, have demanded an audit of those funds, wanting to know where and how every dollar has been spent. The Council of Foreign Relations reported that, quote, much of the aid has gone toward providing weapon systems, training, and intelligence that Ukrainian commanders need to defend against Russia, which has one of the world's most powerful militaries. The Biden administration has additionally promised armored vehicles, anti-aircraft missiles, coastal defense ship, and advanced surveillance and radar systems. Infantry arms and equipment sent to Ukraine include 8,500 Javelin anti-armor systems, 46,000 other anti-armor systems and munitions, 1,600 Stinger anti-aircraft systems, 1,500 Tau missiles, 1,100 grenade launchers, and small arms and ammunition, 7,500 sets of body armor and helmets, thousands of night vision devices, surveillance systems, thermal imagery systems, optics and laser range finders, C4 and other explosive ordnance disposal equipment, M18A1 Claymore mines, mine clearing equipment and systems, obstacle embrace equipment, medical supplies, field equipment, and cold weather gear, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear protective equipment, and 350 generators. Yeah, so again, all this stuff that they're sending, who's getting paid? Military contractors, right? The defense contractors, okay? That's who's getting paid. Again, these are the people that's getting our money. You know, people say, oh, there's money laundering going on in Ukraine. Well, I'm going to tell you guys the real money laundering, right? The real money laundering is American taxpayer dollars, okay, going to Ukraine in order to purchase U.S.-made weapons, okay, from defense manufacturers. And then the defense manufacturers turn around and give the money back to the politicians, right? That is the real money laundering, guys. That's what's going on here, okay? All these politicians are bought and sold by the defense industry. This is why they never, ever, ever cut the military budget, right? They never cut it because they get paid not to, quite literally. I'm just saying. This is the problem. But as Biden is showing weakness, you have Trump showing some leadership here, as he confirms his plans to visit East Palestine. So Trump's actually going to visit East Palestine. Former President Donald Trump has confirmed his plans to visit East Palestine in the aftermath of the train derailment that happened early February. The people of East Palestine need help. I'll see you on Wednesday, Trump said in a Saturday release. Trump mentioned in the release he hopes President Joe Biden and FEMA will also be there. Biden and FEMA said they would be sending federal aid to East Palestine as soon as I announced I'm going. He announced a team will go, Trump said. Hopefully he will also be there. This is good news because we got them to move. Facts, he did, right? Just like Kamala refused to visit the border until Trump said, hey, I'm going to the border. Kamala all of a sudden jetted to go to the border, right? Y'all remember that? When people kept demanding Kamala go to the border and she just wouldn't go. And then Trump was like, I'm going to the border. And then Kamala went. It's almost like Trump could be running the Biden administration if he just does stuff before they do, right? Just do stuff before they do, and he'll make them, actually do their jobs. Kind of crazy how that works. Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., made a Twitter announcement Friday that read, quote, if our leaders are too afraid to actually lead, real leaders will step up and fill the void. Also, on Friday came announcements of increased federal support for the area, which is now recovering from the derailment of a Norfolk Southern train carrying toxic chemicals and trying to understand the long-term impacts the spill materials could have. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is also mounting support. The White House says the EPA has secured a commitment from Norfolk Southern to pay for all cleanup costs. Yeah, so, all I'm saying is this. There's some things happening on the federal level. I'm not saying that the Biden administration is not doing anything at all, but I think it really is a slap in the face and disrespectful to the American people to be going to Ukraine, okay, while you have people over here suffering. You haven't went into East Palestine. You haven't really acknowledged it. You haven't said much about it. It doesn't really seem to be that much of a priority. But again, you're going to Ukraine, right? Again, it's just not a good look, man. It's just not a good look. It just seems disrespectful. It seems like an American last agenda. But again, this is par for the course for Democrats. I just don't understand how people vote for this when they're openly telling you with their actions and their words that they don't give a damn about you. It's kind of crazy. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.